So today we are talking about boosting your international business with DDP shipping and a better customer experience. And so this is probably a pretty simple topic, but it's one that has a lot of things that are missteps that are easy to miss. And so that's why we wanted to talk to everybody. This is for if you're an enterprise customer, this is a great way to make sure that your experience for international shipping goes better. And if this is you starting out your international journey with your business, then this is a great starting point of what you'll need to know for international shipping. So just to go over a couple of things of what we're going to be talking about, we'll overview a couple of topics that we will be talking about, some Incoterms and also billing terms. And then we'll talk about DAP, DDP, compare those two, and then we'll talk about some solutions that Zonos has, as well as some customer benefits that we have for you. So Dan, let's get down to taxes and duties and fees. Let's talk about these topics a little bit more.
Yeah, this is something that there's a lot of nuances to, and variables that determine what these fees are, or if they're due. So that could be the items that you're selling, the country of origin, the country it's being imported into, the shipping carrier that you're using. There's a lot of variables. So taking this and all of those things into consideration, typically what the experience has been, which Megan will be talking about more, is the duties and taxes get billed on delivery. So here you'll see the Incoterms DAP, DDP. We're more speaking to the ability to leverage billing options with shipping carriers to bill duties and taxes different ways. So typically by default, it is set up to bill the receiver or the consumer. And if you're not calculating and collecting these fees up front, it could end up being a surprise to them. Another alternative option with the billing is to bill yourself, the sender. And in that instance, you would get the bill for the duties and taxes and other fees that go into these calculations. And lastly, just like shipping, all of these billing terms, you could bill third party. So it could end up going to another shipper account. So there's multiple ways that you can dictate who's going to receive this bill. And the right choice really depends on your business model and the setup that you have. So again, I'd say primarily people are going to be billing the recipient. In some instances, as the sender, this is typically for customers with large order values and high margins, so they can pay the duties and taxes or eat it out of the margin that they have in the transaction. But there's many ways you can bill the duties and taxes to the consumer of the goods, yourself, or a third party.
Yeah. And Dan, just to recover what you said that we're not talking about the specific Incoterms that are in the industry, right?
Yeah, that's correct. So some terms that we use kind of loosely, and I'd say it's, comes from the transportation world. When we're working with our partners that are logistical providers, we'll use the term DDU or DDP, which really, as Incoterms, that's not what we're referring to today, but they are Incoterms, but used loosely, it's who are we billing for the duties and taxes?
Definitely. Thanks for clarification on that. All right, so let's talk about that DAP or DDU flow. So DAP and DDU are in the industry, they're kind of used synonymously. In 2010, the IOCC changed DP to DAP. So if you hear us say DDU, we're referring to DAP as well. So let's talk about what this experience looks like and show you what this experience looks like. And we're going to introduce you to your customer. Now, this is your very educated customer. They've done research on their product. They've done a lot of looking into what they want, and they've decided that your product on your website, even though it's an international product for them, this is what they want. And so because they understand that that is an international product, they're going to wait. They're going to be very patient in waiting for that product to get to them. But in the DAP flow, when they have that carrier come to their door and bring their package, they're going to be confronted with, let's, for a lack of a better term, call it a bill, or that cost that is not upfront paid. And so that delivered at so that delivery is not going to be delivered unless that customer is willing to pay the difference than what they thought that price was. So usually with that, customers will tend to reject or refuse these packages, and that is a really disappointing for them because this is something that they've waited for a long time. They had that expectation. They're disappointed with the company as a whole, and in turn that package comes back to you. So let's take a look a little bit about what DDP looks like. Oh, excuse me. This is a poor puppy experience. We have to make sure we get that. So let's look at DDP comparing to the DAP flow. So again, we have our really educated customer, and at the time of checkout or on your website, they'll see that the price is a little bit more for this product. But being educated, your customer will understand that there are duty, taxes, and fees that are aligned with this. So they'll agree to pay for those up front. They'll again wait patiently for that package. And instead of having the carrier come and visit and ask for that payment, the carrier doesn't even necessarily have to interact with your customer. They can leave the package and go. And that creates a happy experience or a happy puppy experience. Now, this is high level. We know that this is probably a silly way to demonstrate this analogy for your customer, but it's true. Like this is actually what your customer experiences with a DAP or a DDP shopping experience or shipping experience. So Dan, let's look at this through not a puppy example, but let's look at this through what a customer would see on a DAP versus a DDP cost.
Yeah, so on the left, what you're seeing is what I'd say 95% of at least online retailers, what their experience is like for their cross-border transactions,
right?
Which is what is pretty straightforward, displaying the item total, the shipping cost, and that creates a order total. But none of it, and you can see there's a lot of line items here that are not quoted. And that goes to the nuances that I spoke to earlier of all of the different variables and the different types of fees that really depend on the things I mentioned earlier. And on the right, you'll see this is a breakdown of all of those fees, the way it's typically presented to mitigate confusion with customers is duties and taxes. So we're showing this detail just to give you an idea of what all goes into this. But there are a lot of different fees or line items, and yes, depending on the country, they will charge VAT on duty, so they tax a tax more or less. But as you can see, that with this instance, there's a DDP fee, and depending on the carrier, they change the name, could be duty and tax forwarding surcharge, DTP fee, etc. But if you don't have that fee here, then what ends up happening is your customer gets a COD fee, so for them to collect on delivery. And just to Megan's point, I think as something we can all relate to is customer experience, because we're all customers in one way or another. And to be surprised at delivery with these fees, which they can add up, or they could be zero, is not a great experience, and it's going to have an impact on your lifetime value with your customers for repeat business. But having something also important to point out is having this information is helpful to also inform your customers when there are no duties or taxes due. So it provides transparency, so they're not making up some number in their mind of how much extra am I going to get billed at time of delivery, because as Megan touched on earlier, they're educated buyers. It's not their first rodeo, and they are anticipating there to be a bill at delivery.
Right. Thanks, Dan. Thanks for breaking that down, because that can definitely be confusing. And I think with all of those fees, that definitely brings a shock value to your customer when they get presented with that amount that's still owed at delivery. So why is customer experience so important, or why does it matter? Well, 87% of shoppers are going to return to a company where they've purchased that has had a really good experience. 73% of consumers say that experience is key in influencing their brand loyalty. And loyal customers are 4 times more likely to refer a friend to your company. So you're not only just this one product, it's not just this one experience with one person. That one person is a chain reaction to a ripple effect of people that they will be contacting, of also more purchases that they'll make from that company because you've had a really good experience. So that's why it's important to make sure that we have that good first impression, especially for international customers, because it is a little bit of a gamble for people who don't ship often. So that's why customer experience is one of the more important things to look at when you are dealing with your international customers. So looking from the shopper's experience, why is DDP a good choice? Well, shoppers know exactly the price before buying. Like Dan, when we went through that, Dan said we already know all of those prices. DDP minimizes buyer's remorse, and it increases that customer's confidence in the retailer, or your customer in you. And so that's what we just talked about with that customer loyalty. Dan, you've dealt with a lot of our retailers, so I'm going to let you talk about the retailer perspective.
Yeah, I mean, what happens a lot of the time when consumers are surprised with these fees at delivery is, whether it's accurate or not, in that moment, they feel like, had I known this, I wouldn't have purchased it. And a lot of the times they do pay it because, again, they're anticipating something. But if one of your customers refuses a shipment, then typically you're going to abandon that package unless it's of high value. And a big reason for that is a lot of shippers have discounted export rates, but their import rates maybe not so much. So the cost to return it is greater than the cost of the goods. So you end up with a lost customer, lost goods, lost shipping money. So it impacts profitability. And I had mentioned this earlier, but because you're doing the DDP option, or billing duties and taxes to yourself, rather than the surprise at delivery, it's going to help with lifetime value because they had a good experience. Because in the former scenario where they reject it, even though it's not your fault as a retailer, it's, you're not the one that dictates country laws. The consumer associates that experience with purchasing from you. One other added benefit to it is that there is an increase in cash flow, simply because the duty and tax invoices work similar to a shipping invoice, which is you're going to collect the funds at time of checkout. Typically, this is how the flow works. And then the carrier is going to pay those fees as it, crosses the border or clears customs. And then they will invoice you for it later. So typically it's a few weeks after shipment that you get the bill. So depending on the volumes, it could be a substantial increase in cash flow. It may be nominal, but that is also a benefit to offering this service.
Definitely. So let's talk about how Zonos can help DDP, Dan. I know that we have a lot of different products that touch DDP and total landed costs with all of that, but let's talk about what we can do through Zonos to help DDP even be an even better customer experience for customers.
Yeah, so we have a handful of products, and we also have a service called landed cost guarantee. And really, depending on your business initiatives and your business model, whether you're selling online or not, that's going to dictate which products are going to be right for you. But one thing that I think is super helpful is knowing that there are options. So yes, we can calculate a total landed cost, not just duties and taxes,
right?
But the duties, taxes, carrier fees, and any other fees that are associated with it. We don't get items classified for your catalog. We can manage custom shipment ratings. So whether that's through a carrier API with your negotiated rates, or we do flat rate, again, depends on your business model. But really what we're here to do is help create the cross-border buying experience that you and your customers are looking for. And that's not a one size fits all or a box that everyone fits in. There are variations to how our customers do this, and we're here to help them do it the best way for their business.
Absolutely. I like how you said that there's not like a one size fits all solution. And so that's why we have multiple different options for people to look at Zonos.com for sure. This is one solution that we have. This is going to be probably a duty and tax app through one of our many platforms that we work with. We work with most platforms on our product, but this is what generally our product would look like. And so instead of just a shipping and a product, you also have the breakout of those duties, taxes, and fees right there on the checkout with Zonos. And so that gives you full transparency with your customer. It gives your customer the confidence that you're not hiding anything from them. And it tells them, here's exactly what I'm paying for, instead of just saying, oh, well, here's shipping and that's just the cost of it. This is, I think, one of my favorite things about Zonos is that it just makes everything really upfront and clear and transparent for your customer. So one thing that we do want to talk about is that we're not here to necessarily commit anybody. If you do have questions about Zonos products, we absolutely encourage you to go to Zonos.com, or even if you just have questions about DDP, we're happy to make sure that you answer those, as well as, I think I forgot to mention this at the beginning, but if you do have any questions about this topic or any other international shipping questions, drop those in the Q&A, because we will be answering all of those questions individually. Maybe not at the end of this webinar, but we will answer every single one via email. So just to make sure. But we do want to tell you that there is a way to make your customer experience better today, and that's with Zonos Hello. So this is what Zonos Hello looks like. It's what your customer would see when they approach and they are, let's say, from a different country, let's say Canada in this perspective. And so what is great about this product is that it shows your customer a little flag at the bottom of your screen. And it indicates initially that your customer can shop here, that you accept international shoppers from that country. It also informs shoppers of duty, taxes, and fees in their local currency. and it automatically will translate into 18 different languages using their IP address. This is a product that has absolutely no commitment. We're not asking for a credit card. There's no sign up. There's no free trial. This is completely free. And so if you wanted to make a better international experience for your customers today, this is definitely what we would suggest, is just go over and check out the Hello product on our website. And this is something that you can download and get a better customer experience for you today. Dan, what do you like best about Zonos Hello?
One, that it's free, and really it helps manage expectations. So first of all, it tells your visitors that you will sell to their country or not if you don't. And second, they get insight into how much they can spend before they exceed the de minimis or the threshold when duty and/or taxes due. So those are the things that I like the most about it. And if they do exceed that threshold, they will get an idea of what to expect in terms of duties, taxes, and fees, either once they get to checkout or when the items arrive at their door.
Yeah. So, and again, you and me both, I think it's the free option is great for a better customer experience immediately. So
we had a question from Adrian, more or less asking what the best way is to educate consumers. Free and fast is the expectation, but it isn't sustainable for most businesses. I agree. And I think the best way to educate customers is to, one, clearly manage expectations up front, which Zonos Hello helps with, but also have a really good shipping policy where you outline what you can expect or what your customer can expect in terms of a cross-border transaction, whether they'll be responsible for duties and taxes. And I'd also recommend having links to external resources. If you visit docs.zonos.com, we have a lot of really good resources, including country guides that break a lot of this out, guides on the fees that are charged by shipping carriers. So there's a lot of resources there. So I'd also recommend using that. Putting all of that information in your shipping policy would be a bit overkill. But having links to it for those that are curious and want to dig in, I think is helpful.
Absolutely.
Robert asked, our marketing group likes to use discount codes frequently. Does your system base the duty tax calculations on the discounted amount of the order? That's a really good question. And the answer is yes, we do. There has been a bit of a challenge with our Shopify plugin specifically, where they haven't enabled us to have access through their API to get the discounted amount. But we have a solution for that we've been rolling out slowly in beta for select customers and any new signups. But we're hoping by the end of the week to roll that out officially to anyone currently using the plugin or new installs. But really good question.
Yeah, absolutely.
Other questions: is Zonos compatible with EU IOS scheme, as that's a viable alternative to DDU, DAP, and DDP? So yes, we are, and we'll actually, there's other tax schemes like Australia, Brexit. So depending on how you're managing that, we can help get things set up properly so you're collecting VAT or other fees that are due, if they are due, and help with reporting for remittance to the proper authorities. If you use the landed cost guarantee service that Zonos has, that's where, as long as we calculate the landed cost, you can bill the duty and tax amount to us, third party. And more or less, we would invoice you for any duty and tax amount that we calculate. And we would actually handle any remittance to foreign entities on your behalf. So that's kind of the easy button for cross-border taxes. But yes, we are compatible with the EU IOS scheme. Ness asked if Zonos Hello works in checkout. I'm using it currently, but I do not see it on my checkout. So that's a really good question.
Yeah.
And if you're using one of our plugins for Zonos Hello, it's not going to show in checkout. But if you install Hello yourself, you can actually dictate which pages it shows up on. So you could do that, but it depends on your integration type and the platform that you're on, and if they would enable that in their checkout, because some platforms are very restrictive in terms of how much you can customize, or if you can at all, their checkout page.
Yeah. There's one question here, Dan, that says, do you integrate with Wix?
Yeah, that's a really good question. So we don't have a plugin with Wix. And I want to say that we can, but I don't want to mismanage expectations. So let us follow up with that one via email post the webinar.
Yeah, Ricardo, we'll reach out to you individually for your via email. So we'll definitely make sure that we get that answer for you very clear after the webinar. Cool. Well, I think our time is up, but again, if we didn't get to your question today, we will be following up with an email within the next 48 hours, hopefully. Be patient with us, and we'll make sure that we get you an answer to any of your questions that you submitted. Thank you for submitting those questions, and thanks for being here. We really are passionate about making sure that your customers are getting the best experience and that we are taking care of you at Zonos. So any last thoughts, Dan?
No, thanks for taking the time to join us. And again, feel free to visit our website for additional information. You can also go to docs.zonos.com for the detailed guides. And any questions that you have, feel free to send our way, and we want to help anyone however we can.
Absolutely. Thanks, everyone. We're so glad that you came here today. Have a wonderful week.